Hello, and welcome to this presentation, Getting Started with the CMA180 DTMF Testing. In this presentation, we'll explain how to both generate and analyze DTMF tones using a Rohde Schwarz CMA180 radio test set. This presentation assumes a basic understanding of DTMF, or dual-tone multi-frequency signaling. If you're not familiar with DTMF, or if you'd like a brief review, you might want to watch the presentation Understanding DTMF before beginning this presentation. The Rohde Schwarz CMA180 radio test set supports two different types of DTMF testing. The first is generating sequences of DTMF tones, that is, modulating DTMF tones onto a transmitted RF carrier. The second is analyzing DTMF sequences from a demodulated RF carrier. In this presentation, we'll explain and provide step-by-step examples for both generation and analysis of DTMF sequences. So let's begin by showing how to insert DTMF tones onto a transmitted RF carrier. The generator is started by going to the global toolbar and then selecting RX under the Analog tab. RF and tone generation parameters are then accessed via the Generator tab. This is the main generator configuration screen. At the top left are the RF settings, and to the right of these are the connector and output settings. At the bottom are settings for audio frequency or tone generation, and the Start-Stop button at the upper right is used to enable and disable signal generation. Let's now go through each of these areas step by step, starting with the RF and connector settings. Under RF settings, the frequency, level, and modulation type or mode are configured on the left side of the screen. In two-way radios that use DTMF, the mode is most often FM. Note too that if FM is chosen, the deviation must also be specified. On the right side of the screen, the output RF connector, either RF COM or RF out, can be chosen. The amount of external attenuation in the signal path, for example due to cables, etc., can also be specified. Below the RF settings are the AF or tone settings. If mode is set to DTMF, then the carrier is unmodulated except when DTMF is manually sent or dialed. Alternatively, the mode can be set so that various types of audio modulation are applied to the carrier. For example, here a 1000 Hz tone is transmitted continuously and is only interrupted when tones are being sent. In either case, the small gear icon can be used to access the DTMF settings, and this is what we'll look at next. The DTMF settings dialog is used to define which DTMF tones are sent. Tones or digits are defined as a sequence with a configurable length, and the sequence can be sent either once or multiple times with a definable pause between them. The individual digits are specified by the numbers 0 through 9, letters A through D, the star and/or the pound sign. By default, standard DTMF tones are used. These can be switched to user-defined tones or restored to their standard values using the buttons above the keypad. The duration of each digit and the pause between them can be set independently of each other. And finally, note that when user-defined tones is enabled, the letter M can be used to insert a mute tone in the sequence. This creates a pause that's equal in length to a normal DTMF digit. The DTMF tone sequence is transmitted by clicking on the Dial button. At this point, the configured tones will be modulated onto the carrier. For example, if we define a sequence of 5 tones, including a pause tone in the middle, with each digit length of 200 milliseconds and a digit pause of 50 milliseconds, the entire sequence would sound like this. This sequence will be modulated onto the RF carrier each time the Dial button is pressed. Now let's go step by step through how to analyze DTMF tones demodulated from an RF carrier. DTMF analysis is started by going to the global toolbar and then selecting TX under the Analog tab. Analysis is configured from the Analyzer tab in the main TX GUI, and DTMF analysis parameters are accessed from the Dialing tab at the bottom of the Analyzer GUI. This is the Dialing tab under the main Analyzer screen. In the top left are the settings for frequency, expected power, and modulation type, as well as the mode selection. This should be set to DTMF. In the pane to the right, the measurement mode, single shot or continuous, can be selected along with the number of measurements. Below these is the results pane. We'll go into more detail on this shortly. The input connector, RF in or RF COM, can also be specified, and the Start-Stop button in the upper right is used to begin and end the measurements. Clicking the settings icon next to mode brings up the dialing configuration dialog. Here we need to set the sequence length to match the expected number of DTMF digits. By default, the received tones will be compared to standard DTMF tones, but a user-defined table of values is also supported. One important parameter to note is dialing with PTT release. Enabling this checkbox causes the CMA to continue to evaluate dialed tones, even if the carrier briefly drops. That is, if PTT is released. Once the measurement is running, the results pane will show each valid received DTMF digit. In addition to the digit, the table also shows frequency and deviation of each tone in the DTMF pair, as well as the duration of and delay between the two tones. This table will continue to be populated as long as the measurement is running and valid tones are being received. Let's end with a brief summary. The Rohde Schwarz CMA180 radio test set can both generate and analyze DTMF tones commonly used in two-way radio applications. In this presentation, we showed how to do this with tones modulated onto an RF carrier. On the CMA180, the DTMF tone frequencies and durations are freely configurable by the user. Note that generation and analysis of DTMF on RF carriers requires first defining the frequency, power, and modulation type of this carrier. Analysis of received DTMF tones involves comparing the frequencies, deviation, and timings of received digits to standard or custom values. This concludes our presentation, getting started with the CMA180 DTMF testing. If you'd like to learn more about other types of tone testing, selective calling, radio test, or the CMA180 radio test set, please see the links in the video description. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at rohde-schwarz.com.